Welcome to Pick Up and Deliver, the podcast where I pick up my audio recorder as I step off the train and deliver an episode to you while I walk home. I'm Brendan Riley. Good afternoon, listeners. It's a lovely day here in suburban Chicago. It's about 5 p.m. and it is dark as disco. It's December 7th today, which means I'm 15 days out from the solstice, give or take a day, which means that it gets dark as early as it gets. For those of you not as far north as Chicago in the northern hemisphere, it's already dark by 4 p.m. And what a treat that is. Just kidding, it's kind of nice. The holidays are here, so people are putting out their holiday lights, mostly Christmas lights, but some other celebratory things. Maybe some people are planning to celebrate the solstice. Who knows? Saturnalia is nigh. So, with that in mind, I thought it's time to talk about some games that I've been playing. The last two episodes were not directly games I've been playing episodes. We had a reading episode and we had a top of the stack. So now it's time for a episode about what I've been playing. That's right, it's time for Board Game Espresso, Triple Shot. For those of you new to the podcast, Board Game Espresso is a short review segment in which I talk about games I've tried for the first time and give them a brief first impressions overview. It's not a review. I haven't played the game well enough to really be able to review it, but rather just first impressions. So the first game I want to talk about is called Illiterati. It was designed by Gary Alaka, Rob Chu, and John Kingo, illustrated by Audrey Jung, and published by Gap Closer Games, according to Board Game Geek. This game has the vibe on the front is sort of vaguely cartoony, drifting toward anime, but certainly not anime style. But it looks like it's anime adjacent maybe. The art style is crisp and, like I said, a little cartoony. The characters are villains. The art style reminds me a little bit of Victorian Masterminds, if you remember that game. Or even it's got even a hint of the sort of Phil Folio style cyberpunk or steampunk element, except the characters are a little more chiseled, a little less rounded. Phil Folio's characters tend to be kind of round in the way that they're drawn. But Illiterati is a cooperative real-time word game. In the game, you play a group of people trying to restore books to the world because the world has become illiterate, and there are squads of villains who are trying to destroy all books. So you're fans of books. The way the game works, you start with a hand of tiles that's visible to everybody, and each round you're going to draw some more tiles, 7 usually, and then you and your teammates are aiming for a couple things. First, you're aiming to, as a group, use as many of those tiles as you can to make words. You're allowed to trade tiles or hand them to each other. It's a shared pool of tiles. And at the end of the round, you can only have a certain number of them left. They call that your library. If you're playing on easy, it's 3 letters. In a normal game, it's 2 some of the time, and then there are rounds where you can't have any left. So you have to use as many of the letters as you can. That's your first priority. The only limit on that is no player can have more than 8 words. So as you're passing tiles around and making words, you can't give them all to one person. You generally don't want to. But then the second thing is, if you succeed at that goal of using all the letters, then players are allowed to bind books. And the way they do that is each player has a challenge in front of them. Some of the challenges are based on the content of words. Some of the challenges are based on the nature of words. So like the content of words would be like fast food restaurants. The nature of words would be like, you want 3 words where half the letters are vowels. And each player has one of these cards in front of them. And when you get to the end of the timer, which is 3 minutes, I think, 3 or 4, then you examine, first you see, did we succeed at the round? Did we use all the letters? If not, there's a process for taking a penalty, and you only get so many penalties per round or per game, and then you lose. But assuming you pass the round, then you look at everyone's individual words and see, did they meet the requirements? So like, did they have a group of words with a total of 8 or more letters that spell out the names of fast food restaurants, and within those 8 or more letters, there are 3 letters that have a little gold star on them. That would be an example of one of the requirements. So some of the letters have these 4 different colorful symbols on them. So not only are you trying to make words that fit your goal and make sure all the letters get used. But you also need to make sure you have the letters in your words that have these symbols, or else you won't pass your thing. So in a round where you succeed, then everyone who passed their thing gets a new card, or you only have, I think you do 2 cards each, 2 challenges each in the easy game, 4 challenges each in the normal difficulty, and then it goes, actually it's normal and hard are the only 2 levels we played. I think there were 4 levels of difficulty though. And if you succeed at your challenge, then you get a new one. Once you've succeeded at the full number of challenges that you need to meet, then you are just helping other people. You can have up to 8 words and all that. Then, after you've resolved challenges or not, you draw a villain card and they do something. They make people discard letters, they manipulate the board in some way. Because the whole thing is, the only time you're discarding any letters out of the pool is when you are meeting one of those challenge cards. When you meet a challenge card, you discard all of the words that you used to meet that requirement. Any other time, the letters that you use to make words stay in the pool and you can use them again next time. Along with the new ones you're drawing. So you're constantly adding more letters to the pool, except when you clear those challenges. And then the final round is once everybody's done enough challenges, there's one challenge that's put on the board that's harder, and all the players have to meet that challenge at the same time in a round where the team succeeded in order for the game to get over. And remember those enemies that I talked about where you draw 1 enemy card per round? Those get successively more dangerous because there are 5 of each enemy in this deck, and I think there's 8 total enemies. So it's like a 40 card deck and there's 5 of each. And if you draw a second card of the same enemy, then both of the penalties the penalty on that enemy card triggers, but so does the one on the previous card you drew. So over time, if you draw multiples of the same enemy, the penalties get more and more vicious as the game goes along. We had a lot of fun with illiterati. I've played it probably 5 times. We played on both easy or normal and hard. On normal, we were able to win every time we played. I don't think we ever won on hard. So it's an interesting mix of challenges to face. Like I said, there's also very hard or expert or something. There's at least one other level that's harder than the one we couldn't beat. But I imagine as you played it over time, you'd get better and better at it. So that's good. Illiterati is pretty fun if you like word games. It's an interesting co-op. It's not something that you encounter all that often. And it's a good time. Really liked it. That's illiterati. The next game I want to talk about is Wormholes. This is a game that got a lot of press when it came out, was published or was covered pretty well. People seemed to think it was pretty neat. And then I didn't hear that much more about it. I thought it sounded fun, but when I would see it at the store, it would be like $50 or something. And I'm like, I don't think I want to spend $50 on that. I do like Peter McPherson as the designer. I do like his work. I think Tiny Towns is another of his, which is a game I really liked. I should have looked that up beforehand, but whatever. So I was interested in the game. It's from AEG, and their games are never bad. They're always at least decent. It had art by Karen Wong, who isn't anybody I know, but the art was pretty good. I mean, I like the look of it. But like I said, $50 was too much for me. But then I was at Half Price Books, and they had it for $19. Used, but whatever, $19. I was like, I'll give it a try for $19. And I really liked it. We played it with our neighbors, so it was 4 of us playing. If you're not familiar with it at all, it's sort of a pick up and deliver game where you are shuttling resources or you're shuttling passengers from one planet to another around the galaxy. The gimmick of the game is that each player gets 10 wormhole generators that are built in pairs. So the first 2 say 1 on them, the second 2 say 2 on them, and so on up to 5. And on your turn, you can drop a wormhole generator or even 2 wormhole generators whenever you like. There are some limits about how many can be placed where, but generally you can drop a wormhole generator wherever you like. And then thereafter, in order to move from one part of the solar system to another, you just move on to your wormhole generator and you pop out the other side without using any movement. It's a really neat mechanism that makes the travel in the game extend dramatically, even though the actual number of spaces you're allowed to move is not getting that much bigger. And the great gimmick of the game is that everybody has these wormholes and they're all dropping them all over the place so they can move around the galaxy faster. And the thing is, you can use other people's wormholes too. When you use someone else's wormhole, they get a point, but you're not paying them the point. They get the point from the bank. And so there's a thing where like, well, if I use their wormhole, I can go get I can deliver a 5-point card. Sure, I'll give them a point in order to save me having to do the work of laying that down. It's a really neat game. It's not incredibly dense. It's relatively easy to learn. It takes about an hour to play, maybe a little less. And I think there's a lot of space to get better at it. On our first game, I did not do very well, but that's okay. But I think there's a lot of room as we play it more to get the hang of it, to understand how the pieces fit together. And I'm really excited to continue trying it. It's definitely going to stay in my collection for a while. So I'm happy to have had it, and I'd love to hear if you've played it, what you think. Is this a game that holds up to lots of plays? I think it's going to hold up to at least a few before I'll want to move it along. So that's Wormholes, published by AEG, designed by Peter McPherson. One of the things I like to do during these Board Game Espresso episodes is I like to address one game that I've gotten out of the dust. A dusty game is one that we haven't played in a year or more. So metaphorically, it sits on your shelf so long it becomes dusty. Today's dusty game is one of my favorites. It is Orleans. This classic from Rainer Stockhausen, originally published by Tasty Minstrel Games with art from Clemens Franz, is now available from DLP and Capstone, I believe. As far as I know, the Capstone edition is essentially the same as the Tasty Minstrel edition was. I don't think that they have changed it. In Orleans, you play a medieval merchant trying to build up your community and make as much money and prestige as you can. The game has this great mechanism. It's a bag pull mechanism. You have a bag full of tokens, and on your turn you're going to pull tokens out of the bag, and then you use them in a variety of action spaces. I'm not going to go into it too much. Either you've played Orleans or you haven't. If you're interested, go to the show notes. I will have a link to my deep dive on Orleans so you can learn more about it. I don't need to talk about it here. But I will say, returning to it from over a year, I like it a lot. I like it just as much as I liked it before. It is constantly battling in my mind with Altiplano, which, as you know, when I play Altiplano, then I come away from that going, man, I like Altiplano a lot, maybe even more than Orleans. And every time I play Orleans, it makes me want to play it again. And I have the Invasion expansion, which includes a co-op mode, and I really like to try that. I keep not getting it onto the table, but I am going to soon because I really like that game and I want to. I also do have a number of other Orleans products. I have Orleans Stories, and I have the Joan of Arc, the Orleans Roll and Write, both unplayed. So plenty of that to go around if I decide I want to play more. There's also the Orleans Plague game that just came out recently, and so I'll be picking that up, I'm sure. Part of what's really fun about it is as you go along, you're buying these tokens. It works kind of like a deck builder a little bit, in that it's random which tokens you're going to get out of the bag and what you're going to get for them. And so you're sort of tactically trying to maximize what you get from your play, but you're also trying to decide, like, when do I start spending these tokens I've been getting? Because throughout the first half of the game, you're getting all these tokens, and pretty soon you're sort of drowning in them. You can't draw them fast enough. And then one of the things you can do is you can send your tokens to the town hall, which sends them to this market spot where you get points for spending them. And then you don't get them back, like they're permanently gone. Oh, that was fun. I just saw a couple who were like seeing each other on the way out, like as one of them pulled up, the other pulled out of the driveway, and they just beeped at each other and moved right along. That was fun. And then the game has a number of scoring conditions, but one of the big ones is you move your marker up this one scoring track, and then you get points for all of the merchant houses you built and for all of the scoring tokens that you got. It is a kind of dusty Euro thematically, but it is really good, and I really like Orleans, and every time I play it, I want to play it more. That's Orleans from Rainer Stockhausen. Finally, the last new game I played that I want to talk about is Keystone North America. Keystone North America is a game from Rose Gauntlet Entertainment, designed by Isaac Vega and Jeffrey Joyce, with art by Ibram Ibidi and 2 other people. It is a beautiful game about the Keystone National Wetlands or National Park or something. It's about a specific, or it's about Keystone species. So the idea is that you're accumulating these ecosystems and you get extra points if you acquire the Keystone species, which you put in your grid. Now, ultimately, it's a tile placement game or a card placement game where you're drawing these cards and you're putting them into this grid, And in the grid, these cards meet specific requirements. Essentially, they have habitats that match, and they have numbers that go in order, either 1 to 4 or 1 to 5 or 5 to 1. And what you're trying to do is put them matching cards with matching habitats in order in rows and columns. And you can adjust the rows and columns, but ultimately you're trying to get as many of them to fit as you can. You also have these scoring conditions that you're trying to do to get extra points, and you're drafting from tiles. In gameplay, it feels very similar to something like Calico, because the game has a sort of condensed play space that's easy to it's easy to find difficult to fill, or it's tricky to get just right. The art is beautiful, lots of animals to admire. The gameplay is relatively easy, but the scoring conditions are rather complex. The scoring takes a little while. It reminds me of Cascadia in that way. But all in all, Keystone North America is pretty fun. I would say putting it into the neighborhood of Cascadia and Calico and maybe, bordering on something like Wingspan, it's not as good as any of those. I think it's fun and fine. My family likes it. This is another one I borrowed from the XYZ game library, and I'm going to hold on to for a while. We're going to keep playing it for a bit. But I certainly don't feel the need to go buy it. And I don't think it's a game that, I think if I sort of forgot about it, I don't see people asking for it a lot. It's amusing and it's well made, but just doesn't break new ground in a way that is captivating. Nonetheless, enjoyable. If you get a chance to play it, I would definitely recommend it. And maybe it'll fit a niche for you that it doesn't for me, and really knock it out of the park. That's Keystone North America from Rose Gauntlet Games. Jeffrey Joyce and Isaac Vega are our designers. So what have you been playing lately? I've now reached my home, so I'm about to sign off, but I'd love to hear from you. If you head over to Board Game Geek and enter Guild 3269, you'll find a forum for pick up and deliver, and I would love it if you'd post there and let me know what you've been playing. I look forward to hearing from you. If you want to send me a message directly, you can email me at rattleboxgames, brendan@rattleboxgames.com, or you can send me a message on Board Game Geek. Wombat929 is my username there. Thanks for joining me on my walk today. I hope that your next walk is as pleasant as mine was. Bye-bye.
Brought to you by Rattlebox Games.